All right, let's dive right into this explainer. Today we're unpacking a truly fascinating, honestly deeply cynical text called The Existential Monologues of Monsters and Machines. It's an incredible thought experiment because, well, it completely flips the script on how we view ourselves. Instead of us analyzing the world, we are going to analyze humanity strictly through the eyes of the monstrous and the mechanical. We're going to use their delightfully sarcastic, biting voices to totally dismantle the foundations of human society. It's a wildly different perspective, so let's get right to it.
Our very first guide is the Allosaurus, and he instantly shatters this comforting illusion we have that evolution was some noble, upward climb towards civilization and morality. Nope. Instead, the dinosaur views its own vicious, prehistoric existence as the true epitome of evolutionary psychopathy, completely raw, totally unpretentious. This incredibly cynical viewpoint perfectly sets the tone for our dark journey into the monster's mirror.
So here is our menu of despair for today's explainer. We'll start with 1, the monster's perspective. Meet 2, the evolutionary psychopath. Explore 3, stealing your energy. Phase 4, the free will illusion. Uncover 5, undev ego and corruption. And finally, deconstruct 6, the artificial human reality.
Section 1. The Monster's Perspective, Seeing Through the Illusions.
Think about our comforting human pretenses for a second. All our pages of promises, our elaborate bureaucracies of hope, and our desperate need to pretend that we genuinely care. But when you look through the monster's mirror, they see absolutely none of that. They only see nature's mechanics at work. Chaotic randomness, pure ego, raw survival, and what the text calls psychopathicus savus. These creatures argue that literally everything we build is just a fragile artificial mask covering up the ruthless mechanics of the universe that actually govern us.
Section 2. The Evolutionary Psychopath, the Allosaurus, and the Illusion of Civilization.
The Allosaurus very cynically defines this infernal gene that's running through all of us, psychopathicus savus. He describes it as an inherited cyclopia of the psyche. Basically, what he means is that despite our grand artificial edifices, our towering skyscrapers, and our complex legal systems, life remains just as raw and vicious as it was in the prehistoric Arctic. He argues that this apex predator instinct is still scurrying right there in your bloodstream. You've just adapted to use paperwork and symbols to get what you want, instead of your teeth.
Channeling the dinosaur's sardonic tone for a moment, we really have to ask if your current existence is actually any less chaotic. You know, the Allosaurus points out that his kind only survived through sheer stupid luck, the random fortune of a bigger predator just not being nearby. He completely mocks the human conceit that we inhabit something elevated and special called life, while we view the dinosaur-ending asteroid as just an unlucky break for some dumb beasts. He challenges us. Is our modern, civilized life actually anything more than a more insidious, nefariously hidden version of that exact same chaotic survival?
Section 3. Stealing Your Energy, the Fairy and the Delusion of Purpose. Now, forget about the sparkly, wish-granting sprites of childhood folklore. This fairy is shockingly cynical. To her, our grand, sweeping notions of energy, willpower, motivation, and optimism, they're completely delusional. To the fairy, they are just active molecules, like adenosine triphosphate, literally sitting in a basket, waiting to be stolen and utilized elsewhere the exact second we stop actively needing them. It entirely strips away the arrogance that makes humans think they are anything more than simple fauna or robotic switches.
So why do we lose our drive? Well, the fairy claims she steals it because we practically leave it out for her to take. We lose it to the natural arrow of entropy, sure, but also because our own minds secretly deny things in minute quantities, all while we stubbornly pretend things can just go on forever. She colorfully describes our failing motivations as existential veins of rationales getting stuck to rot. When you feel like a switch has suddenly just been flipped off inside you, that's not some grand psychological crisis. That's just the fairy flitting away with your unneeded molecules.
Section 4. The Free Will Illusion, the Giant Alien, and the Myth of Safety.
Enter the giant alien, who totally mocks our psyche's desperate, pathetic need for a cohesive through line. We delusionally hope a giant creature won't maul us to death, inventing these symbolic, invisible force fields in our minds to feel safe. The alien points out that, yeah, in virtual realities like video games, there are programmed collisions and literal force fields to protect you, or at least cleanly end your misery. But in the outside, vicious jungle of the real universe, there's absolutely nothing at all to stop brute force. Zero cosmic safety net.
And this naturally leads to the ultimate terrifying question. How can you possibly claim to have free will when a massive alien, or simply nature's chaotic randomness, has already decided your fate eons before you even thought you made a choice? The alien argues that so much of our existence is already set in stone by the sheer physical realities of the universe. Honestly, to a giant alien whose forward progress is only halted by its own death, our philosophical debates about free will are as foolish as asking a fish to breathe outside of water. Ultimately, to the alien, only nihil nothingness truly exists.
Section 5. Undead Ego and Corruption. Zombie 4 and the Absolute Indifference.
You know, you probably think empowering a corrupt leader in a complex human system is some grand psychological mystery. But Zombie 4 views our artificial constructs as exactly the same as an avalanche. It's driven entirely by raw ego, with absolutely zero rationale. An avalanche happens due to background static, gravity, pressure, and chaotic randomness. The zombie argues that even when we plan a collective society with all these imaginary quids pro quo, it is ultimately just the blind mechanics of nature at work.
This right here is a massive, chilling realization straight from the undead. Why are we humans so constantly, endlessly surprised by corruption and cruelty? I mean, if corruption is the very air these systems breathe, why would anyone expect them to care about other people's lives? The zombie reminds us that the universe is not built on care. The sun doesn't lose sleep if Pluto freezes for all eternity. And the raw mechanics of human ego, they don't care about you either.
Section 6. The Artificial Human Reality. Zombie 2 and the Hoarding of Brains.
Now, listen to zombie number 2's absolute visceral disgust for human altruism. To him, our charity is straight-up heresy. He uses this brilliant, highly cynical metaphor. If a bird has just empty air to fly into, it has all the incentive it needs to project itself forward. By handing things out, humans are destroying that incentive. And the irony here is rich. The zombie prefers creatures that can stand on their own 2 feet or insect legs, while at the exact same time aggressively demanding his own undead status be acknowledged so he can reduce his own responsibilities.
But hey, at least the zombie is completely honest. He openly admits he hungers for brains just for himself so he can pile more on top of what he already has. But human hypocrisy? We use currency to force others to ingest what the zombie calls our horse vomit on waves of sound, meaning we literally pay to broadcast our own massive egos, while simultaneously starving those who actually need sustenance. We politely call this artificial hoarding competition. But the zombie sees it as infinitely more deceptive than simply eating someone's brain.
When you break it all down, the ultimate hypocrisy the text wants us to confront is this. The monsters and the undead admit they want everything for themselves through open consumption and ego. Humans, however, have the exact same core desire, the absolute hoarding of resources, but our method of operation is to build massive edifices, bureaucracies of hope, and false promises to achieve it. We feign altruism to pull off the exact same hoarding the monsters do right out in the open. As we wrap up this explainer, I want to leave you with a final provocative challenge based on everything we've uncovered from these cynical creatures. Look inward and ask yourselves, when you strip away the paperwork, the digital currency, and the polite, civilized smiles, can you spot the vicious apex predator, that psychopathicus save-us, hiding right behind your own societal constructs? Keep questioning those comforting illusions, everyone. Until next time, stay curious.